I finally bought my dream house in the isolated village of Romanovka. While cleaning the living room, I found a strange black and white portrait of an old man hanging above the sofa. He was grinning creepily, his face drowning in unnatural, low-angle shadows. I couldn't stand his gaze, so I took it down and hid it in the attic next to a crate of rotting rat pelts. The moment I climbed back down, a deafening kick shook my front door.
Hey, who's out there? You out of your mind?
No one was on the porch. Just a locked gate and an envelope on the steps. Inside, a jagged handwriting read, "Rules of the house. Rule number 1, never remove the portrait from the wall." I figured it was a dumb local prank. Crumpled the paper and went to sleep.
During the night, the house came alive with heavy footsteps and a raspy cough. I woke up drenched in sweat. The air was like a sauna, and the wallpaper was peeling. The gas boiler was roaring furiously. Someone had turned the valve to the maximum. Burning my fingers, I forced it down and threw the windows open to breathe. Another envelope was waiting on the porch. Rule number 2. Keep all windows and doors closed.
No way. This is my house. I will break your damn rules. I left the windows open out of spite. Suddenly, a horrific screeching broke out. A landslide of rats poured through the windows. But they were skinless, naked, crimson bodies covered in oozing blood. They fell by the hundreds, biting my legs. I screamed mindlessly, smashing them against the walls with a metal dustpan. The room turned into a butcher shop. Somehow I shoved them out and slammed the window shut, my limbs covered in swollen bites. I had enough. I rushed into the hallway to run, but the front door was gone. In its place stood a solid wall. I dashed to the kitchen, grabbed a stool, and smashed it into the window. The glass shattered into a web of cracks, and a second later it became perfectly whole again. I was trapped. With trembling hands, I dialed emergency services. It started ringing, but a heavy, glitchy voice came from the speaker.
Luke, welcome.
I dropped the phone, and it immediately died. A third envelope lay on the floor. Rule number 3, no phone calls. In that exact second, daylight outside instantly switched off. A pitch-black night fell and all the lights died. The only illumination left was the tiny blue flame inside the gas boiler.
Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Someone entered the room, backward, like a videotape rewinding. He stood with the back of his head facing me, his shoulders trembling with a vile laughter. And then, without lifting his feet, he unnaturally bent his spine backward. His upside-down, crazed face straight from the portrait ended up just an inch away from mine.
How do you like it in my house? In my house. In my house!
I squeezed my eyes shut and stayed silent until the entity vanished at dawn. A new envelope was on the windowsill. Rule number 5. Do not ask me for anything. But then I made a fatal mistake. I saw a man walking outside in the blizzard. Instinctively, I pounded on the glass and screamed for help. The man turned around. It was the owner from the portrait, wearing that same twisted smile. Time outside froze. The snowflakes hung static in the air. That very second, the boiler died, turning the house into a frozen crypt. Realizing I was dying from the extreme cold,
I used the last of my strength to crawl into the attic. I grabbed the portrait and nailed it back to its rightful place in the living room. Total icy darkness consumed me. An invisible voice whispered in the dark, "Do you want to leave? I'll show you the back door." I kept my mouth shut. I woke up on the couch in the morning. Everything was back to normal. Windows boarded up, no rats, and the front door was back. I ran outside like a lunatic. The nightmare had lasted less than 24 hours, but my interest in country life vanished forever. 5 years later, I drove back to look at it. It hadn't changed. But through the cracks of the boarded windows, a pale light was still glowing from within. On paper, the house is mine. But its true master is someone else entirely. My car engine started knocking badly right in the middle of a deserted highway. I had to pull into Ravens Creek, a tiny decaying hole in the wall. A man in his 50s in a filthy plaid shirt was sitting on a porch, staring at me with pure hostility.
"You need to get the hell out of here, kid. Get back in your car and drive."
My engine is broken and it's getting dark. I'll just spend the night, fix it tomorrow, and leave.
Fine. Take the keys to the empty house down the road. Lock the deadbolt and do not look out the windows tonight.
We walked past another house, and a woman was standing on the porch. She was staring straight at us with giant, wide-open eyes. She didn't blink once. I locked myself in the bedroom and fell asleep in total dread. At dawn, I headed to my car, but saw an old couple whispering over something in the grass. It was a dead body. An old man with a massive mole on his cheek, eyes wide open, jaw dropped.
The collector will take old Billy tonight, and then he will bring him back.
I bolted to my Chevy and gasped. All 4 tires were slashed to pieces with deep, brutal cuts. Someone trapped me here. I ran to Graham's house, screaming. "Graham! Someone destroyed my tires! Who did this?"
I told you not to stay. Walk 50 miles through the woods to the highway, or wait 2 days for Vic's supply truck. And remember, lock your doors. If you go out at night, they will tear you apart.
I stayed inside. At midnight, heavy steps echoed from the street, along with the loud clank of chains. I peeked through the curtain. A giant figure in a black cloak was walking down the road, dragging the dead body of old Billy by his hair.
The next morning, I stepped outside and froze. Old Billy was standing by his house, rocking side to side, staring at me with a monstrous ear-to-ear grin. I sprinted back to Graham's house. "Graham, the dead man is alive! He's smiling at me! What is this place?"
That's the body collector. He brings the dead back, but they're no longer human. They're hollow, twitching, aggressive monsters. Sometimes he sews parts of different corpses together to create multi-limbed freaks that hunt at night. There are barely any real humans left here. Go back inside.
On the second night, Graham didn't open his door. Instead, a creepy hunchback stepped out of the fog, hissed that Graham was gone, and laughed.
Suddenly, the whole village erupted into manic laughter as dozens of smiling locals emerged from the dark. I sprinted toward the exit of the village. Vic's truck arrived, but the cloaked collector immediately approached it. Vic stepped out of the cabin, his body jerking like a broken puppet.
Ground delivery loads.
The collector opened the back of the truck. It was piled to the ceiling with fresh human corpses. The monster grabbed one body, made a chilling chain sound, and the corpse let out an unearthly shriek, immediately biting chunks of flesh out of a nearby villager. Multi-limbed abominations crawled out of the shadows. I dragged myself back into the tall grass and sprinted blindly into the fields.
I ran for an hour, tripped in the dark, and smashed my head against a sharp rock. When I woke up at dawn, my mind was a chaotic blur. I saw a traveler with a backpack walking across the field. I stumbled toward him, my legs twitching, my body moving awkwardly. A strange emotion flooded my brain. My lips stretched into a massive ear-to-ear grin. I burst out laughing, unable to blink or take my eyes off the terrified traveler. I couldn't remember my own thoughts anymore, and I didn't even notice that the deep wound on my head was now roughly stitched together with thick black thread. It didn't matter. Smiling widely, I jerked forward, walking straight toward him.
Sheriff Miller, good morning. I am writing on behalf of the investigator. Attached are the written statements from the suspect in the recent incident. We think he might be connected to your ongoing investigation. Please review them and send a reply.
A village street at night is very different from the daytime, especially in winter. When the sun goes down, the darkness makes the whole place feel completely empty and cold.
I rarely came here during the cold months, as my parents usually just sent me to my grandparents' house for 3 months in the summer. Years later, my grandparents passed away, my parents got a divorce, and I ended up working a stressful office job in the city. Eventually, I quit, packed some canned food, and took a taxi out to the old family house to get away from everything. I spent the first day shoveling the path and turning on the gas heater.
Around 6 p.m., I turned on the outside light and heard the gate click. My childhood friend Andy, who lives 2 houses down, came to visit. I went out to the porch and invited him inside.
Yuri, you're back?
I made some tea, and we sat at the table playing chess and talking about our lives. Around 9 p.m., I looked through the window into the illuminated yard. Near the trees in the garden, I noticed a tall silhouette, standing completely still. I told Andy that I thought someone was out in the garden.
Close the curtain. Do it right now.
Why?
Just close it. Don't look at him.
I was terrified, so I reached out and pulled the curtain shut. Andy went into the hallway and turned off the yard light so the window wouldn't be lit up anymore. I asked him who was out there.
That's Mercer, an old man who died back in the 80s. People said he was a sorcerer who cursed the locals. Right before he died in November, he put his hand on the water tower, whispered something, and fell dead. They buried him outside the cemetery with 40 nails in his coffin, but people say his power leaked into the water. The old locals claim that when the ground freezes, he gets too cold in his grave and walks the streets knocking on windows. We have to lock everything after dark, because if he sees your face, he will kill you.
Hearing that made me panic, and I started crying from terror.
I asked him in a whisper if the person had left the yard. Andy didn't answer. He just stepped forward onto the creaking floorboards, reached for the curtain, and pulled it back. He immediately let out a loud scream. A gray, wrinkled face was pressed right against the glass, with dark eyes and a wide smile.
Get back!
I was completely frozen. Then I remembered something terrible and yelled to Andy that the back door to the hallway was unlocked. Right then, we heard a loud slam from the corridor. Someone had just entered the house.
Andy ran to the room door and held the handle tightly while someone on the other side tried to pull it open. He yelled at me to break the window and jump. I grabbed a ceramic mug from the table, smashed the glass, and cleared the frame. When I looked back, Andy was losing his grip and turning purple. I climbed out into the snow, and Andy tried to follow me, but someone grabbed him by the collar from the dark room and dragged him back inside.
Help me.
I picked up a sharp piece of the broken wooden window frame, climbed back up, and stabbed the intruder in the back. His jacket tore, revealing a pale, bloodless body. The man didn't stop. He wrapped his hands around Andy's neck and squeezed. I heard a sharp crack as Andy's neck broke.
I ran down the dark street straight to Andy's house, went inside, and locked his heavy metal door. I collapsed on the floor under the icons, found his landline phone, and managed to dial 112 to tell them someone was being murdered. Right then, there was a heavy knock on the front door.
Yuri, open up. The earth is cold, and my nails are gone. Let me in. I want to rip your throat.
The voice sounded wrong, almost like it was playing inside my head. I panicked, found a bottle of holy water on the shelf, and took a few gulps. Outside, a loud voice shouted for me to wait because it was coming in.
I looked through the peephole and saw Mercer walking through the snow with Andy's body over his shoulder, heading back toward my house. My stomach hurt from panic, so I went to the bathroom, washed the ice off my feet, and drank a glass of vodka from the fridge to stop shaking. That was my mistake. When the police arrived, they thought I was just drunk and refused to listen to me.
They handcuffed me and put me in the back of the car. I didn't resist them. I actually went out to meet them and showed them exactly where Andy's body was lying. Please read these notes again and move me to a different precinct. It isn't safe here. I feel like he is inside my head now. And he is coming for me.
I graduated with honors, hoping to be a good geography teacher, but I failed. I have a soft voice and a skinny frame, so the kids made me a joke. They mocked me, ignored me, and completely broke my spirit. Eventually, I just packed my bags and left the city. I moved to this isolated forest village called Silent Creek.
Honestly, I chose it mostly because of the name. It made me think of Ferdinand Magellan. He named the Pacific Ocean because it stayed calm for 3 months while he crossed it. But Magellan was wrong. The Pacific is actually violent and deadly. I just hoped this village wouldn't be the same.
Wait, what the hell is that? At 10 p.m., and the whole village just went dead. No cars, no people. Even the stray dogs stopped barking. And right out there, near the tree line, I saw 3 incredibly tall, pale figures. They walked strangely, crossing the road before melting back into the woods. I don't know, maybe I'm just losing my mind from this cheap wine.
My head was splitting the next morning.
I went to the local grocery shop to get some food and overheard two older women talking in line. They said a local guy named Johnny was dragged into the woods last night.
They found what was left of him this morning. Just his head and a tattooed arm. Those things from the woods ate the rest. They always go for the organs first.
Hearing that made me sick to my stomach. I walked around the village all day trying to clear my head, and I didn't realize how late it was getting. Suddenly the streets cleared out again. I checked my watch. 9:46 p.m. A sudden wave of dread hit me, and I started running back to my apartment building. Oh God, it's right behind me. This massive, pale creature was sprinting right at me. Its movement was completely unnatural. Its neck was horribly thin, and its mouth was just a giant black void. I managed to slam the building door right in time. Immediately, this awful smell of swamp rot and mold filled the hallway, and I heard a distant wail outside. It sounded just like a ship's foghorn.
Listen to me, kid. After 10 p.m., you stay away from the windows. Don't even breathe loud. Those things are out there hunting. If they see your face and memorize it, they will track you down and gut you. 17 people have gone missing here in 3 years, and the cops don't care. Just stay inside.
I spent the whole evening sitting in the dark, paralyzed. Then, out of nowhere, crash! A heavy wooden log came flying through my living room window. That same awful smell of swamp rot instantly flooded the apartment. No! Stay back! Get away from the window! This impossibly long, thin hand reached through the broken glass, clawing at the frame. Outside, I could see another monster standing in the distance, howling and pointing a long arm straight at my apartment, basically calling its pack. I panicked, grabbed a heavy metal coat rack, and smashed it down onto the creature's hand. It felt like hitting rotten wood. There was no blood, but it howled and pulled its arm back outside. I hid out in a local hotel, but I couldn't sleep at all because of the nightmares. When I went back to my apartment the next day, the place was completely destroyed. The furniture was smashed, the windows were gone, and there were giant, muddy footprints everywhere. I immediately called a taxi. I needed to get out of this place right away. The police covered up what happened in our village. I'm writing this because people need to know. 2 years ago, me and my friends, Cash and Vance, were in my backyard. We were waiting for my grandparents to dig up the garden. Hours earlier, the local sorcerer died by the cemetery. He climbed the fence, screamed, and deliberately impaled his eyes on the sharp metal spikes. It was horrific.
Hey, Max. Let's sneak there. I call it Incident C for cemetery.
Vance just laughed, but Cash was dead serious. Suddenly, my grandmother walked into the garden alone. She was crying and shaking.
Kids, go home right now.
My friends ran off. Grandma dragged me inside, frantically praying. She started locking everything and throwing salt at the door. I thought she was losing her mind.
Grandma, look at me. What are you afraid of?
Max, close the curtains. Do it fast.
I looked out and saw our front gate wide open. I panicked, reached for the curtain, and accidentally ripped it off its hooks. The window exploded. A pale, burnt face with hollow yellow holes instead of eyes crawled inside. It grabbed my collar. Grandma lunged with a wooden stool and smashed its skull. Maggots poured out. My
threw up, and she dragged me away. Grandma told me to hide in the attic. Suddenly, our dead neighbor appeared outside. He had no arms, so he couldn't climb in. But he let out a deafening screech.
Get up to the attic, now!
I scrambled up the ladder. Grandma hesitated, waiting for Grandpa. Suddenly, the second window shattered. A bloated corpse named Marcus burst in. He knocked over the ladder and violently tore into my grandmother. I slammed the hatch and piled heavy junk on top. Marcus was slamming his head against the hatch, shoving his bloated hand through the gap. I repeatedly drove a pitchfork into his fingers. Staying meant death. I forced open the back attic door, swung my legs out, and jumped. I slammed into the dirt, tearing my knee to the bone, but scrambled up and ran into the fields. I found Cash by the barn. His ear was mangled and bleeding. He was sobbing, screaming that they ate his mom. Suddenly, the armless corpse charged us. We knocked it down and stomped its head into the mud. We hid in the clinic. 10 minutes later, Marcus tracked us down. He forced the door open, but tripped. Cash drove medical shears straight into the corpse's eye. I ran out, threw a bottle of alcohol at a smiling dead woman in the window, and rushed for the exit. A skeleton grabbed me, tearing my arm. I smashed my head against the doorframe, blacking out just as Grandpa burst in with a shotgun.
I woke up in a hospital. My mom was crying, saying it was over. Then I noticed my right arm was strapped to the bed.
My life is ruined now. My parents keep me locked in a tiny flat. They follow me everywhere. I saw Cash once. He looked at me like I was a lunatic. They say my grandparents are fine, but they're lying. That sorcerer cursed us. I still can't remember the name of my village.